In the 1950s, a 30-year-old woman walked into a hospital for some treatment. At that time, they took samples from her that she had no clue that they were taking, let alone did she give them permission to take these samples. Her name is Henrietta Lacks. A little about Henrietta. When she was born, her name was Loretta Pleasant. She was born in Roanoke, Virginia on August 1st of 1920. And she married a guy named David Lacks, who happened to be her first cousin, but they were both raised by her grandmother. And that's, of course, how they met. And together they ended up having 5 children. Henrietta became sick shortly after her 4th child, and she decided to go get some treatment at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which happened to be the only hospital that would treat African American women and men. It started with her telling her family that she had this knot in her stomach and she would complain about it often, so she decided to go get it checked out, and that's when she finds out that she's pregnant with her 5th child, Joseph. After she had Joseph, she ends up hemorrhaging quite a bit, and so at that time they decided to take a biopsy of her cervix. I'm assuming this is with her permission at this time. And then they find out shortly after that she has cervical cancer. So they started her treatment with radium insert tubes, and according to orau.org, radium tube inserts are inserted, of course, and then they stitch them in, and then they're left there for a certain amount of time, and then she's supposed to go back and get them removed, and she would have this treatment, a few times. And during her first treatment was when a doctor by the name Dr. Gee took some samples of her cervix, and this was without her permission. She had no clue that these samples were retaken. Also, she did not give her consent to the sample. She just thought she was there for some radium treatment. Unfortunately, she does lose her battle with this cancer on October 4th of 1951. So I started reading this book, and I heard about Henrietta back, I think about 2 or 3 years ago in a biology class, and I read the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. That's right, The Immortal. I thought maybe this book, I had to do a report, so I had to read it. So I thought maybe this book would be like, okay, I'm just going to read it, I'm going to do my report, and I'm going to be over it. No, this book literally blew my mind. The stuff in it is so interesting, so I really recommend that you guys read it, but I'm going to give you a little gist on it. So Dr. George Gee, G-E-Y, was the research doctor who obtained the samples, and he discovered that her cells lived longer than other cells, like regular human cells, and they also multiplied rapidly. They were the first of their kind, and they also multiplied without dying off. So her cells would just grow and grow and grow and grow, and you would just have these massive amounts of her cells. So how Dr. Gee labels his specimens is he would take the sample's patient's name, the name of the patient, first 2 letters of the name, and then the first 2 letters of the last name, and then that's how he would name his specimen. So Henrietta's specimens were named Gila, H-E for Henrietta, and L-A for Lacks. So Henrietta Lacks, and her cells would now be referred to as HeLa cells. And HeLa cells would actually come and make some great medical breakthroughs. Even to this day, you can buy Henrietta's cells. So that's in reference to the immortal part. Like, she is still around. Her cells are still around. You can still buy them to this day. Researchers buy them often. They're still used in research. And one of the biggest things that Henrietta's cells first did was create a polio vaccine. That's how we have our vaccine today to fight against polio. That's why you don't see polio anymore. It's because HeLa cells actually helped create the vaccine. How cool is that? Also, back in the 1950s, again, there was no such thing as getting permission or getting consent for treatment. So there was a doctor by the name of Chester Southam. He went into a prison and took some HeLa cells and injected them into healthy prisoners, and he wanted to see if they could build an immunity to cancer. What ended up happening is the cancer grew like crazy on their skin, and these people had to actually go in and get this cancer removed. They had no clue that that's what they were being injected with. Most of them did get all the cancer out, but there are a few cases where it came back, that the cancer wasn't taken out, that it grew back later, which is just insane to think about. Like, if you went in somewhere and you were in prison and they injected you with cancer and it grew rapidly. But HeLa cells did that, and that was one of the research, and of course they did not build an immunity. Some advanced research that's happened is they've advanced in AIDS research, they've advanced obviously in cancer research, genotherapy, and other vaccines as well. You today can go on the internet and buy them. It's sold worldwide. You can buy them just as a real person. You can buy them as a researcher. You can buy them as a doctor. Whatever you might want to use HeLa cells for, actually. And with them still being bought today, you can tell that it's probably a million, billion, maybe dollar thing. Like, people are getting rich. Scientists are getting rich. Researchers are getting rich just from their samples. But you just have to buy it. The ones, they rapidly grow. You can have these cells for as long as you want until they, died off. They've even sent these to space. They've lived. So, of course, HeLa cells are super important to today's research. But with that, her family has never seen any compensation. This is because they never knew about it. And when they finally found out about it, it was just too late. They, it's already out there. The world already has access to it. And so, with that book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, this goes into more detail as to what happened, where the family is today. But I just wanted to give you a little information about Henrietta and who she was. I didn't want you to just see her as HeLa cells, even though a lot of people don't even know that there is a person behind HeLa cells. They just think HeLa cells are just something scientific. But no, there's an actual person who came behind that, who didn't know this happened, and she deserves recognition for all the good that she's doing.